It's really important for me to participate in this meeting, and I am thrilled to be invited as a speaker. I am totally amazed at what you can do when you bring citizens and community organizations together along with the DNR and Extension, and I am so proud to be part of this program. I know that not every decision that we make in the DNR results in a happy face. I know that sometimes you don't get a grant and sometimes you do. And I just want to say that this is really the white hat part of the organization, and I'm glad that I get a white hat because usually I'm on the regulatory side with the wastewater side. And is this too loud? Should I move it back? No. Okay. So I'm just really pleased to be able to see what you can accomplish when you have the passion and the organization behind you. I wanted to review some highlights of the year. And this is the second year of the Healthy Lakes Grants program. And that's kind of where we improve water quality one riparian at a time, one shoreline at a time. So it's a great initiative, and if you're not aware of what that's all about, please talk to the DNR people that are here, and maybe next year you'll get one of those. This is also the second year for our new grants application streamlining effort, where we have consolidated our grant applications to December 1st and February 1st, taking out that summertime application when our field biologists need to be in the field rather than reviewing and criteriaing, scoring grant applications. We sent our monitoring strategy to EPA this month, and in June we're going to have a Natural Resources Magazine article. There's going to be 7 articles in the June issue dedicated to lake programs. So you'll see something on clean boats, clean waters, successful AIS control, healthy lakes, as well as other achievements. So you might be able to read something about your lake in the June issue. We also are trying to put experts in the field. 2 years ago, we had our first expert in the aquatic plant management program, Scott Provost, who's here. He's out of the Rapids office. And next week, I'm really excited that we're going to have an expert up north in wild rice. So the interviews for that are next week, and we should have that person on board in the next couple of weeks. We've also been able to slow the spread of AIS. And this week, we're going to be submitting our AIS, or the integrated report, to EPA and Congress. So that's the report of the Impaired Waters Program and the rest of the water assessment. Like many of you, I am a riparian as well. I live on Lake Kaganza in Dane County, and that's the 4th lake in the Madison chain. And I enjoy sailing and fishing and everything else that you can do on a lake. I've pretty much been involved in lake management most of my life. Before I moved here, I was in Chicago working for EPA, and I was the lake volunteer monitoring person for the lake that I lived on there. It was a very small lake, 25 acres, and that's how I met Carol Shaw. And we both came to Wisconsin at the same time. But I know what it takes to be a volunteer, and I truly appreciate the effort that it takes. Hopefully it's not 1 or 2 volunteers, but a group of people. And I know that you have to actively keep recruiting volunteers in order to keep your organization motivated and moving forward. And some of you have been leading that effort the entire time, and I certainly applaud that. The theme of this convention, as you've heard over and over, is celebrating volunteers. 30 years of citizen lake monitoring and 20 years of citizen stream monitoring through the Water Action Volunteers. 50 years of combined monitoring effort. That in itself is amazing, and also it's a testament to the importance of the program and that it has survived through the various DNR reorganizations and the budget cuts, as well as generations of our staff. So many of you have gone through water biologists in the field, as well as the turnover in the central office. Sometimes we hear from volunteers, I really don't know what you do with my data, okay? Chris Stepanek did a great job this morning talking about how that data is used. So I hope you were paying attention. You certainly collect a lot of data, you send it in, and then you get a report, and then you say, you know, how is it used, when is it used? And I would just like to take a minute to just let you know how important lake monitoring data and river monitoring data is to me. Volunteers collect SESHI disks as well as water chemistry data on more than 900 sites, more than our staff would ever be able to sample. This information, it directly determines the trophic status of each of those water bodies. And by using this data that you collect, we can calibrate our satellite data and be able to get water quality information for nearly 4,000 lakes, all because of you. This would not have been possible 10 years ago. So the technology that allows us to use satellite imagery, as well as calibrating that imagery against your data, allows us to use that information to classify our trophic conditions. Assessing the condition of a Wisconsin lake and stream is a requirement of the Federal Clean Water Act. And in simple terms, it's basically a report card. So it's either passing or failing the status of that lake, the water quality standard. For example, volunteers collect phosphorus data throughout hundreds of streams and lakes each year to see if it's meeting the phosphorus criteria for that specific water body. This information is the foundation of our lake management and watershed management programs, because if you pass the standard and you're considered in good condition, then the focus of your work and management should be on protection. If it fails the standard, then the focus needs to be on restoration, and those are the grants that we have for you to apply for. And that information is used to guide our statewide priorities when we have our starting point on where we decide where the lake grants should go. Consultants that are working on lake management plans as well are very supportive of our citizen monitoring data. It also helps to determine how we're doing in the state to support clean lakes. Every 2 years, we have this report to Congress, which I talked about as our integrated report, and it's due on April 1st of every even year. So this is due tomorrow, and we will be submitting it to EPA. But it includes all the information that we've collected, and it has the integrated, it's called the integrated report, but it has the impaired waters list as well. And we use this information with the rest of the Lake Partnership and all the citizen monitoring that you do in order to match our federal funds that we get from EPA. And if you add that all up, it's over $1 million for state match that we need for our federal EPA grant under the Clean Water Act. So we use your time and energy and passion to keep the water quality program and our water quality biologists working in the DNR. So we have 18.4 water quality positions that are funded through that source. We also have volunteers collect information that we use to fill all the data information requests. How many people in this room have called the DNR and said, I need information on a lake? Raise your hand. Come on. Okay, so the person that's filling that information request, Jennifer Filbert, if you want to stand up back there. Yay! I want all of you to know that Jennifer Filbert has gotten more outstanding customer service surveys back than everyone else in the Water Quality Bureau. And because of that, because all of you have agreed to fill that out, and I certainly appreciate it, and she does too, she became last month, well actually the 10th of March, the Water Resources Employee of the Year. And she says it's easy because she's just answering your questions. But the questions are answered with your data. So all that data she's able to pull out and provide it for you whenever you request it. So not only are you a volunteer and you're passionate about what you do, you also pretty much pay your own way. I mean, you heard earlier that some of the other states charge citizen lake monitors to be part of a program. What we do is we value that lake volunteer time at about $12 an hour, and that provides $330,000 of match money that's used to fund the state grants. And that actually pays for the entire Citizen Lake Monitoring Network. So your volunteer time is used for match that pays for the Citizen Lake Monitor program. So I think that's important too. So please don't ever think that your data collection is not important. And certainly Chris had many other examples of how that data is utilized. But earlier, I had given you a couple of examples, and I certainly think that there are many more. You may have heard that the organization is going through a reorganization. So we're calling it this time realignment, just to keep everybody a little confused. When I started with the agency 22 years ago, there were two major divisions in the department, the Environmental Quality Division and the Resource Management Division, and I was the DNR Environmental Quality Administrator. Then in 95 and 96, we reorganized into four major divisions: forestry, land, water, and air and waste. So now we're kind of going backwards to that pre-major organization, because now we have an environmental management division, and that's where water quality, drinking water, and the Office of Great Lakes has been located. That's the wet side of the division, and the dry side of the division is the Air Management Program, the Waste and Materials Management Bureau, and the Remediation and Redevelopment Bureau. The Fisheries Program went into a new bureau called Fisheries, Wildlife, and Parks, and the Watershed Management Program, which has the Dam Safety Floodplain Management Program, the Wetland and Waterway Program, and the Non-Point Runoff Program, which has CAFOs and stormwater and things like that. That went into the Business Support Office, Business Support Sciences and Services. And so we're in three different divisions now, and the department is actually asking stakeholders for comments on our new realignment, as well as other areas that we're trying to move forward in as far as efficiencies and strategic direction. And I'm pleased to say that Mike was able to attend one of those stakeholder meetings last week, maybe? Yeah, last week. In the middle of his planning and trying to organize this conference, he took out a substantial part of his day to go, and he provided several comments during that session. But what we've been asking stakeholders to evaluate this new structure to see if it meets their needs as well. There were no major changes that were made to the water quality program itself, other than the fact that we're in a new division. The Lakes and Rivers program is still part of the water resources side of the Bureau. And that alignment allows us to integrate and plan for our strategic directions. So I think it's important to keep that program together, and while this organizational realignment is not focused on budget cuts or staffing cuts, it's really just to look at strategic direction and how can we be more efficient with the staff that we have. And in order to show that we're as streamlined as we can possibly be, it's important to be able to say that we need positions filled. And so it gives us an ability to fill new positions when there's vacancies, as well as request a new budget initiative if we feel that there's something that we need to move forward in. So where are we going? The Lakes and River program is going to be taking a very broad review of the Lakes, River, and AIS grants, the aquatic plant management program, as well as the AIS program. Our goals include updating the AIS strategic plan. It's over 13 years old, and when that plan was written, it was considered a model for the nation, and we've had lots of recognition for that program being comprehensive and progressive. But we can't just rest on our laurels and what we've done for 13 years. We need to keep looking at it and making sure that it's what we need to do in the future, because obviously AIS has changed a lot in 13 years. And so we're going to be looking at where we need to go and refresh our mission on AIS. We're also going to continue to integrate and streamline on our grants program. So again, we've accomplished a lot in these last 2 years in bringing those 3 grant programs together, but our rules are over 10 years old. So we're going to be looking at those rules, and we have next month, our scoping statement is going to the board for approval so that we can move forward with our administrative rules process. We're hoping to realign our grant programs and our funding policies so that we can be even more effective and efficient in protecting your waters and implementing the Federal Clean Water Act. We're also going to be looking at developing a cross-divisional team on lakes issues and hopefully increase our efforts on improving aquatic habitat. Along with a growing concern and effort to manage AIS, aquatic plant management has had a lot of changes in recent years. We've learned a lot, and the state and federal laws have changed. These policies need to be updated and retooled at the same time so that they can better control AIS while protecting our healthy plants, our native species. Finally, we've just completed and updated our statewide monitoring strategy. You heard Tim Asplin say that, and he has led his team, and many of them are here. I'm very proud of this. This was the first thing when I became the Bureau Director 5 years ago for water quality. I hired Tim Asplin and said, we need a monitoring strategy, and it was sent to EPA this week. So I'm very proud of the work that's gone into that, and that will help us in the future. And certainly, as it comes to citizens monitoring, it's all key to what our strategy says and where we plan on going. Next week, you will all receive an invitation to complete a survey asking you about your preference and priorities on the future of the AIS grants program. Please take the time to fill that out. It won't just be your first opportunity, but certainly we need your input, and we need your input more now than ever. We've completed a 5-year effort to comprehensively and statistically monitor AIS in lakes across the state. The good news is that we've been able to stop the spread. So thank you all for your efforts. For those most common invaders. Now we have found new invasions, but for the common invaders that we've had in the state, we have shown that they have not been spreading. So building on some of the things that Chris said today in the plenary session, keynote address, I just want to thank everyone in this room and commend you all on the effort and time that you've donated to participate in your volunteer efforts, your lake stewardship efforts, your community efforts, and certainly anything related to that legislation that's being doled out. Your voice is very powerful, and you need to be able to use it as a group as well as an individual. You can be very effective on anything that's moving forward if you speak up. Many volunteers become leaders, and certainly the Lake Leaders Institute, which is now number 11, starting next month, If you haven't been involved in Lake Leaders, you need to find out what that's all about and sign up for it. Because that creates lake stewards and champions and brings your lake to the forefront. It's a kind of highly concentrated effort to educate you on lake management and kind of charge you up to be a volunteer and make your lake as protected as you can make it. The fact that we were able to pass a phosphorus standard in this state is partly because of all the data that you've collected and because of your advocacy for clean lakes. You're the other side of the coin. They always hear from the industry. They need to hear from the riparian owners. Your efforts are needed now to obtain and sustain funding and support for the partnership between the DNR, Extension, and the lakes effort, the lake organizations. We've evolved over time where now DNR managers, our administration, and politicians expect volunteers to be invited to the table. So we trust you with collecting data to make our policy decisions. And in the future, we're going to include you even more, to engage you in decision makings when it comes to TMDL implementation, adaptive management for phosphorus, and many others. So with that, I will be here the rest of the day, and if you have questions for me, just track me down after the session, and I'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one about anything. Please enjoy the rest of your conference and make that network experience valuable. Thank you.